Although most Republicans couldn't seem to work themselves up to denounce the killing of multiple people in Club Q recently, Nick Fuentes, it turns out, is a step too far for many of them. And they have, when called upon, usually with their arm needing to be twisted, they have denounced this avatar of the most explicit racism and anti-Semitism in right-wing politics. Even Marjorie Greene is sort of denouncing him. So she was responding to a tweet about this, and she said, "Of course I denounce Nick Fuentes and his racist anti-Semitic ideology. I can't comprehend why the media is obsessed with him." Well, we'll return to that and we'll help to explain it to you, Marge. Do you actually report real news or just use CNN for your political activism? Have you questioned Democrats if they denounce Israel-hating Ilhan Omar? Again, so I hate both sidesism in politics. This is about the most pathetic and baby-brained. So Ilhan Omar is Israel hating because a couple of years ago, she criticized the money that comes in from certain PACs. Okay, and that is the same thing as Nick Fuentes, who repeatedly to an audience of thousands says that Jewish people in general are servants of Satan and need to be stopped. I don't know exactly how you both sides those things, but she's gonna do her best. That said, we're gonna focus for a second on the, of course I denounce Nick Fuentes, as if it's a crazy thing to wonder about. Well, look, I'm gonna have to apologize for the people who aren't so sure about where you stand on Nick Fuentes, because in the past you've seen pretty buddy with him, Marjorie Greene. As a reminder, take a look at this.
For our first speech, and we love to get to know her much better. I think this is going to be the beginning of something great. The representative from Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Okay, so when Marjorie Greene, as she has in the last day, say, "I don't know him, I've never heard him speak, I don't know what he stands for, blah, blah, blah." Okay, well, I don't know, you heard him speak right there. You seemed super buddy, and then afterward, you're doing little happy selfies in a back room or something if we bring up this photo. And so you can understand why people would be curious. And by the way, I love the, I don't know this person. Look, there are people that you won't know, that's fine. I don't know every weirdo online. But when a person is in the news on your side of the aisle, is dining with the president that you wanna be the VP for, at a certain point, you gotta stop pretending you don't know what this person is and what position they hold. She definitely knows who he is, and what he represents. So thankfully, she denounces him, I guess. Although bear in mind, she's also advocating for, if we go to this next graphic, for him to get his Twitter account back. And by the way, you can say, well, you can denounce someone and still think that they have free speech rights. And I would say that having a Twitter account has literally nothing to do with free speech. But that also doesn't mean you then have to use your platform as a congresswoman to advocate for it. That's an extra step. You're actively supporting him at that point. But JR, what do you think?
This is one of those things where, again, you try and play both sides of the fence. No, I don't know him, but then when it's necessary to know him for the Nazi vote, yeah, I know him. Yeah, I'm on stage with him. Applause, over the top. Yeah, I know him. Who shows up even when that whole thing fell out? I mean, I just showed up. I don't really know who people are. As a politician, as a congressperson who gets a lot of attention, do you think it's responsible to not know who you're showing up to speak next to? Do you think that makes any sense? If we're going off of your lie and call it the truth, is that a comforting thing to know that you may show up at a Nazi's event and have no idea that you're at a Nazi event before you get there, before you go on stage and agree to talk to the guy, the Nazi who is introducing you? Has that ever been in history where that's a winning argument? I didn't know I was associated with him. Let's break it down to just general criminology or crime, and if you're getting charged with something. Yo, I didn't know the guy was gonna jump out the car and rob that bank. They don't care. You're in the car with him. You're hanging out with him. You're associated with him. They don't need to hear your lies because that's part of the problem. The other part about this is that we don't care that you're associated with a Nazi. Generally, that's why you can say both sides of it. I love Nazis and I hate them at the same time. It's the way she's pushing this whole thing. But then again, was she mad at the racism of Nick Fuentes when he was calling black folks the N-word, when he was criticizing Steve Bannon for saying he's gonna reach out to the black vote, which Steve Bannon, of course, had no interest in, but he was just saying it. And he called it the N-word vote. I believe that was before that whole rock star introduction that he gave you. So is it, when it's black folks, you associate with them, but once we cross over to anti-Semitism, you have to act like you don't care about that? Because no one asks these extra questions and says, what point did you realize the guy that you're hanging out with and has all these racist things that he says, that that's someone you don't want to be associated with right after you wanted to associate with them?
Yeah, and by the way, like, okay, so you can say, oh, I'm denouncing him. But like, imagine if JRI went to speak, and honestly, like, I'm extending way too much goodwill to her in this, and honestly didn't know that the person we were speaking next to had these horrible positions. And our apology was to respond to a tweet, yeah, of course I denounce him. Oh, God, why don't you go talk to this other person? What's the impression you would have of us coming out of that? Do we seem to really dislike their positions? Or is it like an inconvenience? Okay, fine, I guess I was next to the guy who screamed the N-word many times in the cameras, I guess. No, we would be repeatedly saying how mortified we were and how we should have done better research to figure it out. Now, all of that again is assuming that she doesn't actually know who he was, which she definitely did when she went. But anyway, either way, she comes out of this looking really bad. And it's an opportunity to differentiate yourself, an opportunity to show that you're not as crazy and radical as him. And in the end, she comes out of it looking like, yeah, she probably agrees with him, but she just prefer right now for you to not know that.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.